Here are some info and tasting notes for the Nikka Coffey Malt whiskey. So this whiskey is a little bit confusing because people think that there's coffee inside of it. There isn't. The way that they've actually spelled it, you can see is Coffey, and that means that it is actually named after the type of still that they use. So the coffee still was named after a gentleman by the name of Nikka Coffey. He was the guy who invented the still many moons ago. But the still is a little bit different to those beautiful pot stills that you see. It's quite an industrial looking still, and it functions in a slightly different way. But what it does is it starts playing on the technicalities of whiskey, where that still is generally used for making vodkas and gins and that kind of stuff, as well as grain whiskey. So technically this is made from 100% malted barley, but it is made inside a continuous or coffee still, which means that it cannot be called single malt because single malt has to be made in those copper pot stills. So it means that they've done everything the same way as they're making a malt whiskey, they just used a slightly different still. So it is a little bit confusing sometimes, but it is where the technicalities come through, and it does mean that this whiskey is quite unusual because they don't normally go through all that effort just to make a whiskey that can't be called a single malt. So quite a fun little experiment from the guys at Nikka in Japan. It's got a beautiful gold color on this, really pleasant looking whiskey. If you have a go on the nose, I love the nose on this whiskey because it reminds me of Ferrero Rocher chocolates. So it's got that beautiful kind of nutty, chocolatey nose, almost like a praline. So very cool on the nose. If you have a taste of this, it's quite interesting because on the flavor profile, you're going to get very similar to bourbon characteristics. You're going to get like a lot of vanilla, coconut, maybe some maple, with also some really nice warming spice that builds through it. So quite interesting to see how, using that process has resulted in a whiskey that has got some complexity to it, but definitely it hasn't got as many layers and as much depth as maybe a normal single malt will. So it kind of shows you the impact those stills have, and just by changing something like that, it's going to make quite a big difference to the end result. So hope you enjoy the Nikka Coffey Malt.